This is Max Shows of Pro Boxing Fans. I'm like to be joined once again by Johnny Nelson. Take two. It's grand arrivals today. Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn. I'm getting excited, and I want to touch straight away a video I watched last night where Chris and Conor both watched their fight back. And I think you could see they're both kind of talking about how the fight went, and they're both saying how neither man was hurt. Johnny, I want to know your thoughts. Do you think either man was hurt in that first fight?
I think from the outside looking in, it was brutal from us. But when you're inside, the adrenaline's running. You're not going to admit to certain things. And I suppose the shots that even rock you, they don't hurt until afterwards. You think, oh God, I remember that shot. And that's what it's like for a lot of fighters when they're in that position inside the fight itself. I'm actually just watching Talk Sport now with Nigel Benn, and he's talking to the boys there. And remember, after the fight, Chris spent over 48 hours in hospital. And even though Conor was in hospital as well, he was down in the canteen having a cup of tea, whilst Chris was hitting goal with his as far as his dad was concerned. So and I kind of I might change as the week goes on, but I kind of my point is Chris had nothing left to give. And with him having nothing left to give because of the way the fight was, because of the pace of the fight, the ferocity of the fight, he had nothing left to give, which is why he ended up in hospital. In doing so, and Conor did, and Conor saw that. And so seeing that and seeing how Conor is, my problem is how Conor is at the moment this week. I know he said he's going to think more tactically, and be less emotionally invested. He needs to be emotionally invested because that ferocity, that anger, that consistent pressure, persistence is what took Chris to the brink of the cliff. And so Conor needs to bring that same energy to this guy. Now, unless he's saving it until the bell goes and boom, the muzzle's off, maybe that. But if he tries to think about it, stands off and gives Chris time to breathe, Chris is going to win the fight. So Conor needs to do exactly what he did tenfold because he had something left and he realized that he wasn't the one that ended up in hospital for 3 days afterwards because he had something left, and he was actually thinking, you know what, I actually didn't do bad here. I actually did not better than what I thought. So both fighters watching the fight and assessing the fight, we all watch our old fights back and remember the shot. Oh, that was a good shot. We don't realize at the time it was how good the shot was. And both fighters, you've got to commend them for showing the commitment to actually go through it all over again, go through all the training all over again. And the reason why it's probably more palatable for them both to do that is because of the dislike between them both. And regardless of what Connor's saying, I'm not going to be emotionally invested. He is. Let the muzzle off. And for Chris, Chris is being Chris. Connor needs to put Chris in an uncomfortable situation. And I think this calm demeanor of Connor will actually works in Chris's favor. So Connor needs to actually show the same intent.
Definitely. I think I want to ask, obviously, I know this and I know you as a fighter will also know this, and you can't look at boxing on paper, but objectively, this fight, Chris is obviously the naturally bigger man. He's got the more experience. He's fought on the world stage before. What is it about Chris and Connor that makes this fight so enticing, so close? Is it that emotional investment? Is it Connor's skill? Is it Chris with the dehydration? What do you think make this fight so close as what we're expecting?
The personalities, like father and father, their personalities don't gel. These guys would never be best buddies. The Benns are raw, heart on the sleeve, emotional. The Eubanks are measured, articulate, thoughtful. And I can imagine one rubbing each other up the wrong way, and it's usually the Eubanks rub the Benns the wrong way. So I think it's exactly the same with the boys. I believe that you're looking at the weight, the conditions are exactly the same.
Mm.
Exactly the same. The contractual positions are exactly the same. That being so, that's why I think this fight has so much attached to it and so much grievance and opinion, like mine, to it. You hear the dad still fears for the position his son is in, but he's got to let his son go. So, all right, it's down to you, son. So because the conditions are exactly the same, which is the reason why I lean towards Connor, because the conditions are exactly the same. Do you remember the last fight? Chris initially was turning up eating Kentucky Fried Chicken and all this sort of stuff, and it was like nothing to him. So he thought, I got this. So maybe he made a mistake in regards to how he prepared for this. But now, and I think after that first fight, they both found a mutual respect for one another. But that shouldn't take away from who they are and what fight they're going to bring to the table.
Definitely. You touched on the fact that you're watching Talksport, so you've definitely seen Simon Jordan recently. I saw he said this fight that he's seen better fights in Wetherspoons and it doesn't excite him. Just instant reaction to them comments.
I love Simon. I love Simon, and Simon doesn't mind poking the bear. And he says how it is. And in fact, Simon's very knowledgeable. And sometimes he says what can be deemed as be a little disrespectful to the fighters, especially if you're a fighter, and he isn't.
Mm.
And I don't think, even though it sounds like it, I don't think it's a personal slant on the individuals. I think it's people's perception of how big and huge this fight is. I believe Simon watched the last fight when he said he wasn't going to. I believe he watched this fight. He'd probably say he isn't. He's got to. He's got to watch this fight.
Yeah.
And so again, if you're not with like Witherspoons, then that means you watch the first fight as well. So Simon is a very good broadcaster. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to get the information out of the boys, and he knows how to get a truthful and honest answer. So I like that. I don't mind that at all, because what you want is authenticity from fighters, and once you've got under someone's skin, you can't bluff or bullshit your way around anything.
Yeah, and then last one on Eubank and Ben. I just want to touch on, obviously we've seen all the ambulance footage and the images of Chris in hospital. What do you make of that? And obviously he's talking about how apparently Matchroom stopped the
So,
ambulance.
so, so Chris pointing the finger at the boxing mode of control of the promoters. If
Mm.
you're in Chris's position, you're going to blame everybody and anybody.
Mm.
I honestly and truly don't believe the boxing board of control would want that to be the case. I think negligence, maybe the boxing board of control would put something in place where that doesn't happen again. We learn our sport learns from the accidents and the missteps in our sport. Maybe they'll have a helicopter on standby so they can airlift them out of there. I know that might sound a bit extreme, but I've tried to get out of Tottenham. It takes you 2 hours to get out of there. This is nobody's fault. Nobody's stopping me. I was stuck in a car park. Then you're stuck in traffic. So you can't control all those people that are in the streets, all the traffic's in the streets. Even an ambulance, no matter how many blue lights you blow, you can blow and blow and blow. If there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to go. So the boxing mode of control, what they could do is have a helicopter on standby. That to me is a common sense thing to do in such a situation, because Tottenham's not the easiest place to escape from, regardless if you're injured or not. In regards to what blaming Eddie, I think Chris probably thought the board and Matchroom were in cahoots, especially with Billy Joe being brought to the dressing room before, and Robert Smith talking about things that he thought were personal that shouldn't have been discussed publicly. So I can see where Chris is coming from. I don't agree with it because I wasn't the victim, but I'm just an observer from the outside looking in. So I can see how we can say, no, that's because of X, Y, Z. And I like Chris because Chris doesn't care for boxing folk.
Mm.
When he boxes, he's out, he's gone. He doesn't swim in this viper's nest. So he'll say what he's going to say and move on. So he doesn't care when he's shutting Eddie up at a press conference. He doesn't care when he's shouting out the British Boxing Board of Control. He's speaking his truth, and you know what? He's paying the fine. Great news for him this week. So he tell his dad that he's going to be a father of twins, and again, it gives something different to another side, a softer side to Chris. That's always been the villain on these shows for one reason or another, and that's just because he's not as engaging as most other fighters, and that's probably why people would vilify him. But he's a good guy. He's a good kid.
Definitely. Now, Johnny, just one more question before I let you go. I want to touch on Anthony Joshua, and there's reports, and Adam Smith kind of confirmed it to me that he's going to be linked up with the Usyk team out in Spain. Just what do you make of that? I think to me, like I said, I'm not a fighter, but Anthony Joshua and Usyk fight very differently, obviously. So what do you think that could provide for Anthony Joshua? And again, like almost the roadmap. What do you expect to happen in these next year or two for Anthony Joshua?
You know what? Our gym is very unorthodox,
Mm.
and it's been well documented that Usyk looked at our gym, him and Lomachenko from being young, and they looked across at Nassim Hamid and how the fights trained from our gym, and their coaches wasn't happy about that, and so which has contributed to what they saw, what they look at, and it's great, and it shows a piece of respect and. Admiration from AJ to say, let me come and sit in your camp and see what's going on. The only thing he's going to learn is the same thing you learn when you're going to Klitschko's camp. Learn discipline. You see how people prepare to fight, how they prepare for in training camp. In regards to tactics, if that's what people are looking at, he's not going to learn anything in 2 months. This takes years and years and years of practice. You may get one or two tricks that are put in your sleeve. Yeah, try this, try that. A mindset that's been given to you about relaxing, but being able to let the shots off, switching southpaw to orthodox. But you're not going to learn that in a few months. Now, maybe it's been quite a few more months because we're just hearing about it. But again, you're not even going to learn in a year. It takes years to learn. And whenever he picks up, will work for 2 or 3 rounds, and then you'll go back to type
Yeah,
because you have constantly been doing this naturally, instinctively. We did our footwork day in, day out for 1.5 hours before we started boxing. Southpaw and orthodox. Everything we did, we boxed southpaw, we boxed orthodox. We'd spar around southpaw, we spar around orthodox. To the point where we could box uh, confidently either way. You're not going to learn this in 2 months. And if you do, you're not going to be very comfortable with it. It takes a lifetime. Marvin Hagler was never originally a southpaw. He started off as an orthodox fighter. It takes a lifetime to learn it. So for AJ, I commend him for going over there and saying, "No, show me something different. I want to try and pick up on that attitude you had. I get it, but I don't know the reasons why he's done it. Um, Maybe he wanted the isolation, the solitude. But if that's what it is, then good on him. But if people are thinking he's gone out there to try and copy Usyk, or to pick up Usyk's style, I hope it's not the reason because it's not going to work.
definitely. Well, Johnny, thank you as always for your time.